Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us for the 2025 Online Members Conference. This is our third iteration of this conference, having started them back in 2023. It's wonderful to have your attendance here today. So it's been a really busy period the last 6 months since our physical member conference, and even the last 12 months, sort of stemming back the last year or so. A lot of progress made, a lot of achievements, and a lot of firsts for us here as Bowls New South Wales. So I'd like to recap just briefly on some of those achievements, sort of touching on what Dillis has already mentioned earlier on today. But I think for me, one of the big things and one of the really positive things to see is an increase in participation within our sport, within the events that we deliver. I know Dillis mentioned that earlier, but I'd also like just to go into a little bit of detail with regards to that over the last 12 months. So in the last 12 months for our indoors singles qualifying, we've seen a 22.5% increase in participation in that event. Our over 40s pairs, we've seen an increase of 28% in entries for that, 304 teams. Rookie singles, we've seen 609 entries into that event this year, which is an increase of 12%. Rookies pairs, 347 teams entered versus 298 last year, so an increase of 16%. Our Women's State Carnival is just growing and growing, and currently we're sitting at 266 entries for that event this year. That's an increase of 12% on last year. Our mixed pairs has seen really significant growth and pleasing growth, with 468 teams entered in this year, and that's an increase of almost 50%, which is unbelievable. And it's really pleasing to see that our multi-disability state championships as well, our entries for that have continued to grow year on year. We've seen a 10% increase in that event for this year, which is fantastic. So I just wanted to go through some of those statistics because it's really positive to see that continued growth within the participation space of our sport in New South Wales. We've also published our financial statements as of November last year. We've seen a net increase across our organisation, 15% increase in revenue, and that's been attributed to 120% increase in event revenue and 120% increase in commercial sponsorship revenue as well. So my team and I have been working hard to try and change our income lines and diversify our revenue streams, and engaging new partners like P&O Cruises, and we're just about to announce, or just announced, TAB as a partner for the Platinum Pennant and our state championships. Partnerships like that, and a few that we've got in the pipeline, which I'll touch on a little bit later, are really exciting for our sport and really helps us invest back into the sport. Pleasingly in that space as well, particularly from a P&O point of view, that Cruises, we'll be saying farewell to P&O Cruises shortly because they're sunsetting that brand in Australia. But we are in conversations with another cruise liner at the moment, and it's looking very likely that we'll put pen to a paper on a deal in the very near future. But some of the activity that we performed with P&O in the last 12 months have actually performed on par commercially with some really big organisations like the South Sydney Rabbitohs NRL Club, who are also a partner of P&O Cruises. So it shows that the value in our audience and the weight that we can bring to the table right across New South Wales in batting well above our average against other sports in this space. The unifications of zones and districts, and we've spoken about this before with the new establishment of our regions, so 16 new region associations in operation across the state here in New South Wales, came into effect as of 1 July last year, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. We've run a couple of major marketing campaigns for our sport, reaching, actually generating over 14 million impressions on social media, which is a really great result. And you may have noticed we're actually running a campaign currently in market across all of our digital channels to encourage people to get down to their clubs and get involved in our sport. Dillis mentioned earlier some awards we won. We won the New South Wales Community Event of the Year for our state championships last year in Dubbo. We're really looking forward to hosting that event up in Ballina again this year. And we also were named as New South Wales Sport Organisation of the Year, given all the good work we've been doing in and around the scenes with a number of different key governance issues right across our state. We held our second ever physical members conference last year at Wenty Leaves, which was a huge success, and the feedback from that event has been really positive. So we thank everybody who's fed back to us on those different activities and different streams that we ran across the course of that day. For anyone who hasn't attended that event, I'd really recommend, if you can, come and join us at the end of this year in October. We'll soon start ramping up communications in relation to that event, but please come along, immerse yourself in the sport for a day, and I'm sure others that have attended will attest to how good that day really is. Our focus on multidisability and inclusion at our state championships continues, and it was a real pleasure of ours to deliver the first and the inaugural state test series against Victoria in the multidisability space last year. And we'll be looking at ramping that up again this year, and looking at even new ways of amplifying that into the future with getting other states involved and potentially an Australian team involved as well. Following the unifications of zones and districts and the establishment of our new regions, our interim management committee of each region have been in operation for close to eight to 9 months now. We're holding a workshop in 3 weeks' time to bring representatives in from each of those regions through a grant that I was able to obtain through the New South Wales Office of Sport. As part of that session, we'll be talking about the rollout of the National Integrity Framework, which I'll speak about a little bit later. We're also looking at policy frameworks for development right across the state to make sure that our sport is delivered uniformly and fairly for everybody who participates in every region across our state as well. So that should be a great couple of days, bringing our region reps together, getting to know them a little bit better, but also discussing matters that are impacting them and their regions, and working out solutions collectively and co-designing some of those policies to make sure that they're fit for purpose for us here in New South Wales. We recently announced our conditions of play and calendar, and I won't go into too much detail on those, but we will be speaking about those a bit later in today's session. Generally, we did a large overhaul with regards to the conditions and just trying to tidy those up and making them easier for people to consume and read. We also brought in some broader changes to our grading and to our calendar as well, which our match committee will touch on a little bit later. Excitingly, we're to welcome the Platinum Pennant Season 2 back in full operation shortly. We'll be announcing that right now, actually, in terms of the draw. Very excitingly, we've got TAB on as the naming partner for that event this year. We've got some really exciting initiatives in place with that leading into the Platinum Pennant. We've also got Cabra Bowls, who are going to be hosting the finals, which is a really exciting addition to the calendar. And we're in conversations with Cabra about doing some new and really innovative events in line with that final series. We're soon to be conducting a strategic plan review. So our strategic plan has been in operation for a couple of years now and is up for review. So that conversation has happened and is happening at board level. And we'll soon be conducting some workshops on the road with different regions and our clubs right across the state to visit our current strategic plan and look at areas that we need to adjust into the future. We're soon to be launching the National Integrity Framework, which Elke will be presenting on later today. The National Integrity Framework is a set of guidelines, essentially, in how to manage discipline and complaints that come through the Bowls system. It's a uniform system that we are all bound by, from Bowls Australia down to Bowls New South Wales, down to our clubs. And it is a really new and different way of thinking in this space. So I really highly recommend you all take note of Elke's session later today, and also immerse yourself with other resources that are going to be available in the coming few weeks and months. There will be some large announcements with regards to this framework as we move forward over the next weeks. We continue to conduct post-event reviews. So if you are sent a survey from Bowls New South Wales, please make sure you fill that in with full honesty and full transparency, because we do listen to these post-event reviews and we look to try and adjust our events as we move forward based off that feedback that we're getting as well. So that process is just a continual process that we have in place, and it will continue into the future. Very pleasingly, we've got a very strong community focus, which we're starting to build now as well. So you may have noticed that we've just launched the first ever Indigenous designed shirt in line with our state championships coming up in Ballina in a few weeks' time. They're available for sale on our site. So we've actually established a merchandise hub on our website. And we're also looking at creating new merch items that we're going to be launching later in the year as well. So if you know mum or dad out there, or grandma or grandpa, or auntie and uncle, or son and daughter who are in the sport and would appreciate some new and some different Bowls attire, please keep your eyes peeled for announcements further into this year, as well as we again look to diversify our offerings. That Indigenous shirt is something really special for us and signifies a step for us, a very small step for us as an organisation, as we look to try and diversify our supplier base, but also as we try and amplify our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture here in New South Wales, and amplify that out to a broader audience too. So Shane Cook was the artist who designed that shirt for us, and there's an incredible story behind that design. Shane has a really incredible story as well. And if you're in the market or looking to engage in Indigenous artists, I couldn't recommend anyone higher than Shane with the talent that he's shown in the display that he's created for us. We're also, only this morning, we had a partnership announcement with the Skin Check Champions, who are a charity based out of Sydney. They'll be joining us at the Ballina State Championships in a few weeks' time, and they'll be there for 12 days conducting free skin checks for all participants. We're only talking to them earlier today, as I mentioned, and they said they were actually down at the Live Golf tournament in Adelaide last weekend. They performed 400 skin checks down there for free for participants as part of that festival, and they actually caught 38 melanomas as part of that process, which is pretty scary. Obviously, golf is an outdoor sport, and so is bowls. So for us, it's a nice alignment, and it's a good awareness piece for all of our members to make sure that they get their skin checked. We'll be looking at rolling out more skin checks into the future, free skin checks for our members at different events, and working in collaboration with the team at Skin Check Champions as well. So if you haven't heard of them before, go online, give them a Google. They're quite an interesting organisation, a good little community group for us to get involved with. Dilys mentioned earlier that we unlocked some government funding last year, which was fantastic. So due to all the good work we've been performing across a number of different areas, we've unlocked a specific tier funding within the New South Wales Office of Sport. Now, that funding is based off, as I mentioned, 24 months worth of really strong and good activity, and it's given us the ability to focus in on some really strong areas for our sport into the future. So those areas are female participation and looking at growing the female segment of our membership for women and girls. Multicultural audiences, so looking at tapping into new audiences and testing and piloting new approaches to how we deliver our sport in New South Wales. Governance and strengthening our governance ongoing, both at board level and internally here at Bowls New South Wales. Multidisability, so looking at increasing how we're performing our classification events right across our state, and also at the region conference, as I mentioned earlier. This is a really good step for us, and it also means that it's the first time we've ever been able to employ an individual based off a grant we've received from the government. So you may have seen we're in the market currently for a position of participation manager, whose role will really be focused in on those key areas and helping to drive participation for our sport right across the state. So if you know anyone who would be interested in a role like that, please reach out to our office and send them through to us. As I mentioned, we've got some really exciting new partnerships in the pipeline from a sponsorship point of view and diversifying our revenue base even further. Focus very much on tourism and facilities management. Some of those are a bit too early to announce now, but we'll be looking to announce those over the coming months. And they'll drive some really great benefits for you as members right across the state. Much like our P&O cruise deal or deals that we put on across the last 12 months have done so, these will do the same for you. So we'll continue to be digging away out there and trying to unearth more partners for our members as we move forward this year. So finally, I just wanted to say a big thanks to all of our participants, everyone who's participating in our sport, everyone who's attending a club, being part of our sport, anyone who's volunteering as part of our sport, all of our club administrators. Without you in our sport, we don't have a sport. So I just wanted to say a huge thanks for everything you do. I continually get blown away when I travel around metro and regional areas across New South Wales, in terms of just the enthusiasm and the commitment that's out there to our sport. And I just take my hat off to you all, so thank you very much. I'd also like to say a big thanks to my small but really powerful team here at Bowls New South Wales. We're cracking the whip on a number of initiatives at the moment and moving in the right direction. And I just wanted to say a big thanks for all your collective efforts in pushing all these different agendas to get us to where we are at the moment. Big thanks to my board as well for their unwavering support of me and the team here in what we're looking to achieve, and especially Dilys as our chair and the work she puts in as chair for our organisation. So finally, again, thanks very much for being part of today, our online member conference. Great to have you here with us. Looking forward to some great content ahead, and I'll hopefully see you on the greens at some stage into the near future. Thanks.